Right guys, so today we're going to be diving into both my Vanguard UK and trading 2-on-2 investment portfolios. I'm going to do the usual roundup of my individual holdings. I'm going to give you guys some analysis of my own portfolio and how it's performed over the years. I'll share with you guys the total value and the return on investment, along with also make a live investment during this video too, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Now, it's been the worst start to the year for stock market investors for 52 years, so both of my portfolios have admittedly taken a little bit of a beating. However, despite the S&P 500 being down 17% and the Nasdaq being down over 12% year to date, in my heavily geared US as well as big tech portfolio, thanks to the mini stock market rally which we've seen this past week, both of my portfolios are actually still in the green. Now, despite this obviously providing a little bit of relief for my own personal investment portfolio, along with I'm sure yours too, what I wanted to demonstrate during this video is that actually time in the market is one of the single most important factors for long-term investing success. But more on that a little bit later. Firstly, what I want to share with you guys is my Vanguard UK investment portfolio, because it's a portfolio that I actually began all the way back in 2017. As soon as I finished university and I started a job, the minute I got paid in my very first pay packet, I decided to use a proportion of my income to actually invest into my Vanguard UK portfolio. And a little under 5 years later, the current portfolio currently sits at a value of £11,355. Now obviously this portfolio sits at a pretty healthy value, but a lot has certainly changed over the years since I've started investing. The first thing to probably call out is that I actually stopped investing into my Vanguard portfolio as we entered into the 2020 tax year. So I'd actually only put money into this Vanguard account for just over 2 years. The rest of my investment portfolio is held over on trading 2-on-2, which I'm going to share with you guys in just a second's time, because that's the bigger overall portion of my total holdings. However, just from investing for about 2 years into the Vanguard account, the returns have actually been quite phenomenal over the past 5 years. So check this out. I've actually contributed £5,488, but my investments have actually returned me £5,867. So I've actually more than doubled my money just from this investment portfolio alone. Now you might be thinking, what on earth have I been investing in order to double my money within the space of 5 years? Because truth be told, if I could double my money every 5 years consistently, well, I'd certainly be pretty happy in 10 or 20 years from now. So let me log into my Vanguard account and show you guys all the details. So in terms of the holdings, well, as you guys can see, the only single holding that I have within this portfolio right now is the Vanguard VUSA S&P 500 ETF. Now, for those of you guys who have never heard of this before, it is simply a US stock market index tracker, which basically tracks all the top performing companies in the United States of America, like all of the common ones that you can think of, like Apple, Microsoft, Tesla, and Amazon, along with 496 other companies. Now, the one great thing about the S&P 500 ETF is that it gives you complete exposure to these top 500 companies at any given point in time, because actually on a quarterly basis, these top 500 companies are refreshed. So the worst performing companies drop out of the index and the best performing companies go in. And therefore, on the basis that it's a weighted index, actually you get all the exposure to the best companies on the planet, or the best companies in the US stock market at any single given point in time. Now, thanks to all the Federal Reserve money printing that went on during 2020 and 2021, of course, all risk assets very much went on a big bull run that I was obviously able to benefit from. Now, what I did want to share with you guys, and probably the key point for this whole video that I really want to draw out, is how this portfolio has actually performed since 2017 when I first started it, and actually show you guys the fluctuations in value which I've personally experienced, because I know for many of you guys watching this video, you may have only been investing for perhaps a year or two, perhaps since the pandemic, and as a result of which you might not have been through this kind of volatility which we're actually seeing in the stock market currently. So if you are feeling a little bit uneasy about all of the volatility right now, well, hopefully this can somewhat put your mind at rest. So as you guys can see, right the way back in October of 2017, I started this investment portfolio by investing £400. But what I want to draw your attention to is actually the personal return on investment, which you can see here, along with the cumulative returns, which you can see just to the cell to the right hand side, along with the total value of the portfolio too, which obviously has grown over time. Now, what you can see is that during the first few months of investing into this investment portfolio, returns were certainly volatile. And in actual fact, 6 months into this investment portfolio in March of 2018, I was actually still in the red, seeing a negative return on investment of £67.42. However, as any long-term investor knows, it's more important to spend time in the market rather than trying to time the market. And as a result, I was very much focused on the long term and continued to invest into the portfolio. So roll on a few more months and returns started to come back into my favor. As you can see, we started to see positive numbers across the board. until of course we then hit the Q4 market sell-off, where the stock market actually entered into a little bit of a correction. And you can see that all of those gains that I made throughout the back end of the year during Q3 and into Q4 were all of a sudden diminished back to a negative territory, seeing the total return on my portfolio at £176.89 in the red. At this point in time, I'd been investing into the stock market for just over 12 months and seen an absolutely zero return on investment. But it certainly didn't faze me, and I continued to invest alongside my long-term vision. And then funnily enough, after a year of very little progress and constant setbacks, then the returns really started to flow through. And month on month and month, you guys can see the gains were just growing and growing and growing at a very much a rapid pace. And during the 12 months thereafter, I actually saw gains on the portfolio in 9 of those 12 months. So 75% of the time I looked at my investment portfolio and it had grown in value compared to the day before. To the point where in December 2019, just 12 months later, I'd gone from seeing those negative returns to a positive return of £1,301. Then we all know what happened thereafter, because after seeing all of those gains in 2019, we then saw the big old stock market crash of March of 2020, where in just 2 short months I actually lost £1,700 of total value from the portfolio, and all of my gains were wiped out once again, seeing a negative return on investment of £396. Now at this point in time, some people out there might think, well, I'm simply just going to quit. It's been over 2 years that I've been investing and I'm down over 400 quid from building up all of this value within the investment portfolio. But for me, it's all about long-term investing, and I knew that if I could just sit it out for a long period of time, that I would only go on to benefit. And then it just so happened that we saw the quickest stock market recovery in history, and since then it's pretty much been plain sailing. You can see those returns within the portfolio were very much recovered. In the 2 months thereafter, all of the gains were made back up, and then some, because every single month thereafter, bar a couple of course, we then decided to see very rapid growth within the total value of the portfolio, which pretty much brings us up 18 months or so later to today's current cumulative returns, which are sat at £5,867. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not the highest amount within this portfolio, because obviously so far this year, it's very much been a difficult year, with obviously January and February, along with April, May and June, all seeing negative returns. And the absolute height of this portfolio was actually sat at cumulative returns of £6,402, actually £6,874, so we're actually still a little bit way off that. But nonetheless, what I'm hoping to share with you guys throughout the course of this investment portfolio's lifetime, I've gone from seeing a negative return on investment to returns of over £5,000. Now, I'm hoping by showing you these numbers that it actually provides hopefully some more perspective on perhaps the overall fluctuations that you're probably experiencing within your own investment portfolio, and probably just to share with you guys that fluctuations are certainly normal, and that it can certainly take, 3, 4, 5 years or so to really solidify the gains within your investment portfolio. You certainly might see some ups and downs along the way, but if you just continue with your overall investment strategy, which for me was just a cost average into the market every single month without fail, you can see with the power of compounding now starting to take place very, very slowly, the gains are now starting to certainly come through. Which I guess leads me on to the perfect segue to talk about my trading 2-on-2 portfolio, which is certainly slightly less mature because I've only had it for a couple of years or so, and as a result it's fluctuated massively compared to my Vanguard portfolio. So the total value of my trading 2-on-2 portfolio currently sits at £23,688 for a total return on investment of £1,161, the equivalent to about 5%. But if we actually look back in time somewhat, you can see that the investment portfolio at the absolute peak returned just over £7,000, and then to the absolute worst in July of this year, returning negative £2,000. And now we're back up to those returns of just over 1,100 quid. Certainly huge fluctuations, and I guess that's what you can probably expect to see, especially when you have holdings like mine, which are predominantly based around growth stocks as well as US tech as well. So in terms of those holdings, let's take a look in a little bit more detail. So the major ones that I have, there are a couple of smaller ones in there too, but the major ones that I have are Advanced Micro Devices, Amazon, Apple, we've got Meta Platforms, Palantir Technologies, Tattoo Chef, Tesla, Unity Software, a Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, as well as one free share which we got in Walt Disney from one of you guys signing up to Trading 212 using the link down in the description below. So they're the holdings that I currently have, but I'm interested to see what investments you guys are currently making, so be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Now whilst we're on the topic of investment portfolios, I wanted to share with you guys a tool which I've recently come across, which I think many of you guys might find quite helpful. Now one of the main issues that I have from building up an individual stock portfolio is that it can become quite difficult to actually keep on top of all of the news, all of the earnings announcements, and all of the details that come out in the press pretty much on a week by week basis. But this tool which I stumbled across called Simply Wall Street pretty much allows you to download your portfolio into their tool, their software that they have. It's a free tool to use, a free software plan that I've got. And I can download all of the stocks which I hold, and it'll give you some more in-depth analysis on those individual holdings, which this might just be a whole video in itself, guys. So be sure to let me know if you want all of the details. But more specifically, what I like to see is the fact that over on the home page, it gives me all of the details of all of the stocks in terms of all of the news announcements that have come out. So Amazon, Meta, AMD, Palantir, Tesla, and the list really does go on. And from having all of this information collated from all of the different sources in one platform, I've personally found quite useful. So we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent slightly, but if you guys do want to also use that tool too, it's a free tool as I said, then I'm going to leave a link to it down in the description below. So now back to my Trading 212 portfolio, because today I'm going to continue to cost average my way into the market. Because as I did with my Vanguard portfolio, which has turned out to be quite successful, I'm going to do the same with this one too. However, today I am just going to add some more units into my Vanguard VUSA S&P 500 ETF, and today we are going to purchase 6 units in total for £377.61, and I'm going to send that buy order to the market, which now brings me up to a total value of £3,521 for 56 shares within the ETF. Now when we take a look at the allocation, you guys can see that actually my Vanguard holdings now take me just above Amazon, now into the top 3 spot, with Apple and Tesla being my other 2 largest positions. Now for me personally, I have a little bit more of a weighting towards individual stocks right now. It's about a 65-35 stock ETF split, and I'd like to bring that to about a 50-50 split instead in order to minimize the overall volatility within my investment portfolio. So for now, I'm going to continue to increase my overall weighting and balance my investment portfolio out by increasing the overall holdings within that ETF itself. So that's my investment portfolio, guys. Be sure to drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it. But before you go, if you are feeling uneasy about the current state of the stock market right now, then I certainly recommend that you click on this video here. And with that being said, I'll see you over in the next one.